Hey guys, it's Libby. Welcome back. It's been a while since I did my last Discworld video, but here we are. I'm going to give you a brief tour of the books in the Witches sub-series. What are the books in the Witches sub-series, you may ask? That is a good question. Here's the ones that definitely count in all lists of the Witches novels. Weird Sisters, Witches Abroad, Lords and Ladies, Masquerade, and Carpe Jugulum. Then most people will also include Equal Rights, which occurs before Weird Sisters. But that leaves us with a slight problem, since if we're including Equal Rights, maybe we should also be including the Tiffany Aching sub-series, which starts with The We Free Men. Both of these books only really contain one witch from the proper Witches series, that's Granny Weatherwax, and she's not the main character. The main character is a young girl who's sort of her protege in this one, in this one, Tiffany. The key difference that most people cite is that this one is categorized as young adult, and that's how it's marketed, and this one is categorized and marketed as adult, and so they have different publishing imprints, so it's awkward to put them into the same series. But I think the real difference is the setting. Terry Pratchett knows how to develop a setting, and the rest of the Witches novels are set in the kingdom of Lancre, which is located in the Ram Tops, which is a rather steep, dramatic mountain range. Although we do eventually end up in the metropolitan hub of Ankh-Morpork in Equal Rights, we do start out in the Ram Tops. And you really get a feel for the character of the land and for its excellent thunderstorms. The Tiffany Aching series, on the other hand, takes place exclusively on the Chalk. Well, I say exclusively, sometimes they go to Fairyland, as you do. The Chalk is inspired by the West Country in England. It has lots of verdant rolling hills and not really any mountains. So for my purposes, the Tiffany Aching books are a spin-off series of the Witches novels, and Equal Rights is part of the Witches series. Glad we cleared that up. This is also the only series that I feel comfortable saying Terry Pratchett decided he was finished with before he died. The last one in the series is Carpe Jugulum. It was published in 1998. All of the other sub-series at least had a book published in this millennium, if not in the last 5 years. So I think Pratchett decided that he was done with the Witches of Lancre and had turned his witch attentions to Tiffany. There's 4 characters that you should be aware of for this series. The first one is Granny Weatherwax, who you may have heard of even if you're not a Discworld reader, because she's very popular. She's very practical and matter-of-fact. She does her job very well, mainly driven by the fact that most of the other witches in her family have gone evil, and she really doesn't want to go evil. Then there's Nanny Ogg, who is another old lady. She's the most fun. I think she's often there for comic relief. She's really talented at dirty jokes and using her enormous family to get things done. Magrat is the third member of the Coven for the first half of the series. She's younger, she's sort of trying to figure things out. She's sometimes described as a wet hen, but I think she is really trying. She's really into crystals and magical knives and precisely concocted potions, which is of course what you really need to be a witch, not this silly headology that the older witches do. And then as the series progresses and Magrat fades into the background, Agnes comes forward. Agnes has an interesting split personality thing going on. It's unclear exactly what's happening, and I'm not totally sure Terry Pratchett knew exactly what was happening. Agnes is, shall we say, generously proportioned, and you know what they say about fat girls, inside every fat girl is a thin girl and a lot of chocolate. Well, Perdita is the thin girl inside Agnes. And while Agnes is kind of dorky and lets people walk all over her, Perdita is cool and assertive. You can decide for yourself whether Perdita is somehow magically her own person, whether she's a split personality of Agnes, whether she's the alter ego that Agnes inhabits when she wants to be awesomer. But anyway, on to the books. All of the Discworld sub-series have a sort of thematic focus that Terry Pratchett draws his parodies from. With these books, it is the ye olde Western canon is what I'm calling it. Mainly Shakespeare and fairy tales. Equal Rights, unfortunately, does not really fit this mold. This was the third book published in the Discworld series, and I think Terry Pratchett was still finding his feet. I definitely think it's the weakest book in the series, the Witches series, and possibly all of the Discworld series, but at least it's one of the shortest. Honestly, if you don't want to read this ever, you'll be fine. This book is about feminism and how women can do all the stuff that men can do isn't that great. Our main character is Escarina, who is female, but accidentally sort of gets given the powers of a wizard. Ladies are not supposed to be wizards, so she has to go to the Unseen University in Ankh-Morpork and show them who's boss. Lady boss. Weird Sisters is a riff on Macbeth with, of course, more of a focus on the witches. I am impressed with how much Terry Pratchett is able to construct his own story. This does have a usurper king and his megalomaniacal wife who kind of goes nuts towards the end. And of course there's witches, but that's about all the similarities that it shares with Macbeth. He really takes the story and runs with it and makes it his own. The next one is Witches Abroad. This is an exploration of what it means to be a fairy godmother, mainly in the context of the Cinderella fairy tale, but we also get mentions of some other things like the Frog Prince and the Wizard of Oz. Lords and Ladies is inspired by Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. It does take place on a midsummer night. There is a fairy king and a fairy queen. There are some actors, kind of. They're not actually actors, they're just supposed to perform for the wedding of the king and queen, but they're not very good at it. And that's pretty much all the similarities that it has to Shakespeare's original play. I think this might actually be better than A Midsummer Night's Dream. Masquerade is Terry Pratchett's spin on the Phantom of the Opera. Agnes really doesn't want to become a witch, even though she suspects that that is what fate has in store for her, so she runs off to the big city to join the opera. There she meets a very attractive and willowy young lady named Christine, who, since she is so beautiful, everyone wants to be the star of the opera, but she's not really good at singing. At least she has a magical tutor who teaches her to sing through her mirror. Until that is, she runs into Agnes's room and says, "Agnes, I think my mirror is talking to me. Can we switch rooms for the night?" And Carpe Jugulum, which means seize the throat, is based on general vampire mythology. There's elements of Dracula in there, but there's also elements of lots of other things. So there we go. I hope you found this helpful, and if this is the first video in this series you have watched, I will leave a link to the playlist with all of my Discworld videos below.